Now to China. Joining us is China watcher Michael Pillsbury. So, Michael, you heard the talk over the weekend.
Yes.
The president making sounds towards China that were much more positive than we've heard recently. I'm just wondering how the Chinese are reading this. When he talks to Tim Cook from Apple about the problems with tariffs and maybe loosening up as far as that goes. How are the Chinese reading all this?
Well, the Chinese are quite relieved, David, over this peaceful demonstration yesterday in Hong Kong. It could have gone the other direction with a lot of violence and the police cracking down, an international incident. Instead, what you see, I think, is the president wants a deal, but he thinks the Chinese haven't come around quite enough yet for a deal. So that's the trade talks. The Hong Kong negotiations are different, but I think you see the same approach with the president. He's talking about Xi Jinping somehow meeting with the demonstrators' leadership. If you look closely at what the demonstrators want, it's not that out of the question. They want the word riot not to be used anymore. They want an investigation of police brutality. This young woman whose eye was shot by the beanbag or whatever it was. And they want to continue Hong Kong's movement, really more than 30 years now, toward universal suffrage and an election of their leader. Now, obviously, they used to be a colony, so Britain appointed their leader. They don't have a tradition of democracy in that sense. But they have a kind of strange system now that the British really need to speak up and be involved, because the British are the ones who made the deal back in '84. They have kept out of this. They've sort of held the coat of the Americans, President Trump and Xi Jinping, and said, you guys work it out. Well, we have some influence because we give Hong Kong special trade benefits as long as they're autonomous. But this is really between the British and the Chinese, and I think you see the president wanting to see a deal worked out in Hong Kong so it doesn't ruin the trade talks. In a way, they're both linked, David.
Yeah.
The issue of what is legally binding is a key issue in the trade talks. They can't just say good best intentions and walk away and cheat again. In Hong Kong, there is this written deal back in 1984 about how Hong Kong will be not governed by the Communist Party. So it seems to be there's a violation of that going on.
Exactly. I mean, the point is, once again, we hear how disingenuous some of the deal-making by the Chinese is, whether it's talking about trade issues, whether it's talking about Hong Kong. Just sort of, and you know, the president made I think, a pretty harmless remark about Hong Kong in a tweet last week, and immediately the Chinese came out like he said he was going to be sending the troops into Hong Kong, and he said they were claiming that the United States was behind the whole thing, linking us to terrorism in Hong Kong.
Right.
I'm
the
just,
black hand.
Yeah. If they
and Susan Lee is there too. Susan Lee is there covering it.
She is indeed. But the point here is, is the president used to this kind of rhetoric, or could this sour the trade relations at all?
I think he's used to this kind of rhetoric for sure. I think he, as described in several books, his main concern with China is they not be allowed to surpass us and become the #1 leader of the world. That's what's at stake in both these things, both in the Hong Kong negotiations and the direct trade talks. I'd just like to make a pitch for something Steve Bannon said.
Sure.
Steve Bannon obviously is no shrinking violet. He said the president can't afford to listen to the fire breathers. That was the key word, the fire breathers in America, who are calling China an enemy, saying, you know, we stand with the students in Hong Kong as though there's some kind of Budapest 1956 rally. That is not what the president's trying to do. He's trying to get 2 deals done. But until Boris Johnson steps up, we can't make a lot of progress with the Hong Kong universal suffrage issue. That's the big issue.
But our big issue, Michael,
are dangerous right now.
Our big issue is the trade deal, and Hong Kong is of great interest to. We have a lot of connections with Hong Kong. There are a lot of people from Hong Kong who came here. A lot of Americans who go to Hong Kong. There's a strong emotional attachment to freedom in that country. But is that going to interfere with trade talks at all?
Well, President Xi has got his fire breathers, too. He's got people telling him it's time to crack down now and waiting for one more sort of violent episode in Hong Kong and then send these ex-super police across the border. That's what I'm worried about.
Michael
so we got
Pillsbury.
Fire breathers on both sides, David.
We have the market opening coming in just a moment, so we're going to have to say goodbye, but please come back and see us soon. Good to see you, Michael.
Thanks, David.